Before we start talking about the Duolingo English test itself, I just wanted to remind all our audience, or the whole audience, that the early admissions are now ending. We are on the finish line here. It ends on December 31. So it's important that all of you manage to apply for the school on time. Yes, so Marvulan has a question, I believe.
У нас табель за 8-9 класс только под конец декабря, наверное, выйдет. Что тогда делать?
Yes. So first of all, Marvulan, you don't have to send the latest ones, but you have to send the latest you have. So it's fine if you don't have your latest transcript for grade 9 for first semester, but you at least should have the first term, I believe. So if you have that one for the first term, you can send that one. But again, we ask your transcripts for the last 2 years. So you can send for grade 7, grade 8. Okay. If you don't have the transcripts for your grade 9 first semester yet, it's fine. We don't require them. All right. So as you probably know, everybody, one of the main criteria for the admissions process is the Duolingo English Test. And today we have a teacher from Canadian International School, Mr. Thomas Cummins, who is teaching Duolingo English Test in our or within the high school preparation program. It's the course that we have for those who feel that they have to get ready a little before they apply to school, right? So first of all, thank you very much, Mr. Cummins, for joining us on the Christmas Eve, right? Or rather, it's coming, right? It's coming.
Yeah, this is the morning of Christmas Eve.
Yeah. Yes, it's the morning of Christmas Eve. I just wanted you to tell the students a little bit about the Duolingo English Test itself. First of all, let's just talk a little bit about why it's different from other tests, because it says that it is adaptive, right? The Duolingo English Test is adaptive. So what is that? What does the word adaptive infer?
So the word adaptive means that it changes according to you. So as you go through the test, I believe it will, take into account how you're doing and then adapt the test to your skill level, is my understanding. Or the questions change as well. I think that's standard and pretty universal across proficiency tests, is the fact that the questions are not going to be the same for everyone. You will have different questions according to, it's randomized, in other words.
Mm-hmm. Great. And another thing that I've noticed at the Duolingo English Test is that it doesn't have separate sections for like writing, reading, speaking, listening, right? They're somehow combined. So one exercise might be both for reading and listening, let's say, or reading and writing, right? Or speaking and listening. So let's go through some key formats, question formats, if you don't mind, and talk about what constitutes the Duolingo English Test.
Yeah. So I might have taken a different, practice test, because the version that I was looking at was full of different sections. The sections are sort of randomized, and some of the sections have combinations of reading and writing, or listening and writing skills in them. So they are sort of mixed, a bit of a mix and match situation, but they are divided quite clearly. Okay. So some of the sections are very clearly, you are going to be listening to this conversation and responding to it in kind. Or the very last section, for example, is responding with personal voice. So it's asking sort of more of a personal take on a situation. It's both in writing and speaking. So the very last section of the test, as far as I understand it, is more of like your personal writing style and your personal writing skills, whereas other writing sections or writing tests are more of the objective respond to this question or like look at this picture and describe this picture for 2 minutes. 1 minute, I think, is in Duolingo. I've got a bit of a presentation, so I can get started on that if you'd like. Or should it just be a conversation for now?
No, presentation is fine if you want to. That's fine.
Okay. Let me just set this up. There are a lot of great resources as well online. We can talk about that later for preparation. But the Duolingo test is sort of as far as I understand it, there are kind of clear-cut sections for reading. Yeah, like there's different activities for it, but they are divided into sort of the 4 competency styles or 4 competency skills. So give me a second. So let's start by just talking about the test format, I guess. It's, as I said, it's divided into the 4 major skills, language skills that we have in every language, or every language competency will test whether you are good at reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Of course, those 4 skills overlap. You need all 4, but they are, you can be a very good speaker and not as good of a reader. So there is sort of a bit of a divide in it, as well as like how it's scored. Once you take some practice tests, you'll see that the scoring also scores your reading skills as opposed to your reading skills separately from your writing skills, and your speaking skills separately from your listening skills. So those 4 areas are what are being looked at. As far as the test itself, it is 1 hour long. It's scored out of 160, and there are sub scorings as well. So you might have like a writing and listening sub score, or like a speaking and reading sub score. As with everything Duolingo, it's also quite gamified, which means that it feels like you're playing a video game. There's fun noises and big green buttons that you can press, and it's sort of meant to be friendly and give you sort of a bit of a reward system. There's a bit of a like, yes, you did this great. So it's friendly, but at the same time, it is also quite strict. So there are rules that you have to follow, and it sounds as though they will not hesitate to give you a 0 if they think that you're cheating in some way or another. So as much as it appears quite fun, you also do have to follow the rules and do it the way that they would like you to do it. So some of those rules,
Yep. Yeah, I was just going to ask you if you have any of the technical rules and requirements in your presentation. So yeah, let's go on, and we'll see if I have anything to add.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So there's a few things. They are going to record you. I have this later in the rules section as well. So you have to have your cameras on. So they will have recordings of you taking the test. So they want you to keep your eyes on the screen. You can look down at the keyboard if you're typing, but they generally are going to be looking for, your attention to the screen in front of you. So if your eyes are darting around, or if you're looking off into the distance, they might assume that you're looking at someone behind the computer giving you answers. So you have to kind of keep your eyes focused on the screen, and basically just, make it clear that you are paying attention to the test at all times. Again, they're recording you so they can see if you're moving your lips or your mouth. So do not speak during the test. The only exception is for speaking questions. Even speaking to yourself. So some of us like to talk to ourselves while thinking. They might mistake that for you talking to someone. So you have to be very careful about how you come across as well while taking the test. You have to be alone during the test. So again, they don't want anyone else in the room. That might be difficult depending on where you are when you have to take the test, but try to find a room to yourself and try to kind of, tell your parents or brothers and sisters not to, interrupt or walk into the room when you're taking the test. It's just 1 hour. So just find a room that you can be alone for 1 hour in. So as I said, the test is recorded and you need to record it using 2 separate cameras. So there's your laptop camera or your computer camera, webcam. So a front-facing camera. And there's also a phone camera that they're going to ask you to set up as sort of like a profile side view to, again, just check the area. I think they also may maybe make you take pictures of the area you're taking the test in. But they are quite thorough. So again, just make sure you are following those rules. No notes, no headphones, and no VPNs. So VPNs are something on your computer that hide your location, and for one reason or another, they don't want you to have any of those installed on your computer. And headphones, they don't know where the headphones are connected to. So again, they're going to assume you're trying to cheat if there's anything suspicious. So just try to focus on the test itself.
Yeah, and it's better if you have your ears visible, right? Especially if you have longer hair or something like that, so that they don't have any suspicions of you cheating. Yeah, even if you have longer hair, it's better to kind of make a ponytail or something, right? So that your ears are visible. Yeah, that's also important stuff. And also any sounds, like even an alarm clock, right? Or whatever it is, like any other sounds might lead you to cancellation of your exam. So be careful about that. We had cases like that. We had students who tried 3-4 times before their results were accepted, or rather their exams were accepted as what's the word? Eligible or
legitimate, or yeah.
Legitimate, yeah.
Yeah.
So it is important.
They seem to be very strict from what I've listened to, or the things I've listened to about it. They are quite, they're looking for cheater. Yeah, they're looking for any excuse. Not actually, like they want you to take the test, they want you to pass, but it seems as though they might assume the worst.
Yeah.
The other technical thing is that some browsers won't be able to do the test. So you have to kind of, take the practice test and see if your browser, so your, internet access window is able to do the practice test. For me, it told me I needed to download either Chrome or Opera. So those 2 browsers were the only ones that it said worked. I'm not sure if Macs are different. But that seems to be just like a technical issue sometimes. So this is a little video about the test. It's just about a minute long, a minute and a half.
Yeah, having a steady internet connection is also important.
Yeah. So you're going to be recorded. They want both audio and video are sort of key or very important in this situation. So yeah, this video is just very short, and it's just about, again, some of the technical and rules, rule-based things to know. Yeah, so apparently also people have had their tests canceled because they sounded too memorized. So just be, again, follow the rules. Do what they ask. If they're asking you to be kind of spontaneous or just sort of work within the confines of this, so work within the rules that they give you, then just do that. It's not the most complicated test, and we'll get into the specific types of questions now. Does anyone have questions so far or concerns, things that you that were not clear? Okay, cool.
Guys, if you have questions at any point of time, please push the raise your hand button, and either myself or Mr. Cummins will address you whenever you do that. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So let's get into the types of questions that you'll be experiencing, or that you'll have to kind of use. Sorry. That you'll have to answer during this test. As Mercy said, I've read different things. The practice test that I took was divided into 8 separate sections, but I think maybe on the test itself, it might be a little bit less structured. But the one that I took was divided quite clearly into these 8 separate sections. So the first section that I experience was read and select, and basically this is just testing your vocabulary, but not in the traditional way. It's not saying like, here's a word, what does this word mean? It's showing you a word and it's asking you if this is a real word. So you kind of have to know a bit of having a big vocabulary helps, or having kind of like a nice thorough English vocabulary helps. But the other things that you can look for that would be helpful in this section is just common features of words. So for example, similar root words, or root words that might be similar to other words that you do know, as well as prefixes and suffixes. So a prefix is a part of a word that comes at the beginning of the word. So unlikely is something that is not likely. That at the beginning of the word makes it a negative, or the opposite of the word itself. So if something is likely, it is probable, it is going to happen, or most likely going to happen. If it is unlikely, it's the opposite of that. So just knowing things like that about English language will help you a lot for this section. It is, I think, I forget exactly, I think 15 of these, or somewhere in that range of 10 to 15 of these words that could be real words, could be words that look like they should be English but are not actual English words. And you'll have 5 seconds per word, basically. So you have to kind of make a quick decision on it. Anything to add, Mercedes, or any comment on this section?
No, thank you. That's by the way, that's one of the most difficult parts, right, for a lot of ESL learners, because words, some of the words, like the one that you have here on display, is rather obvious, or rather obviously not existing, right? But some of them are really, really under disguise of a real word, right? And that might be tricky and challenging. Yeah.
Even this one, I would definitely understand someone mistaking this. It has a common, like some is a common part of English, a lot of English words. So I could understand someone mistaking it for a real word. But somther is not a real English word. But it's interesting. I would definitely recommend taking the practice tests on the Duolingo website, because they give you this full section and you can do it as many times as you'd like before actually taking the test. So that was 5 seconds per question, and roughly it was a couple minutes of that. So depending on how quick you are. The second section that it gave me was fill in the blank, so just very simple sentences. And you had about 20 seconds per question for this section, or you will have 20 seconds per question here. And it'll give you part of the word, so give you maybe the first 2 letters or first 3 letters, and then it's asking you to complete the word. So for this section, you again kind of need to know vocabulary. Your vocabulary should be is the main thing that's going to help you here, knowing enough English words to help you figure out what that word might be. But the part that helps you out in this section is also the context of the sentence itself. So I was just able to blank glimpse of the president as his motorcade passed by. They're typically more common words. So does anyone have any guesses on what that word is? It's 5 letters long with a CA at the beginning. Yeah. Margulan?
I was going to answer, but then I saw there was actually a higher letter count than I saw.
Okay. What was the word that you?
But what was the option?
At first, I didn't see the last little box, and I thought it was a 4-letter word that would be cast. But in that case, I don't know.
Yeah, cast a glimpse. That would work in this context, like you're casting a glimpse in a direction. But the word here is catch. So I was able to catch a glimpse of the president as his motorcade passed by. It's sort of something that, again, maybe like an ESL or ELL learner, or ELL English language learner would maybe not know that catch can be used in this context, but it is sort of very commonly used in the context of or as sort of idiomatic in catching a glimpse of something. So you're, it is a common phrase actually. So, but here you are definitely looking for context clues, but your vocabulary needs to be large enough to actually know what those words are as well. Any questions so far about this? I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Again, it's very gamified, kind of very friendly looking. It gives you a fair few hints, like the beginning of the word as well as the phrase around it. But it also only gives you 20 seconds to answer the question, so you can't take too long. This is one of the larger sections when I was doing it, and it's sort of a series of 2 types of questions that are mostly testing your listening and reading skills. So there are 2 types of questions in this 24-minute period. The first one, it'll give you a phrase, so you'll be listening in this section. It'll also, mix them up. So you might have 1 listen and type, and then 1 read and complete, and then 2 listen and types, and then 2 read and complete. It doesn't really follow a structure. As Mercedes said, it's adaptive, so it does change from person to person. Your test will be different from someone else's test. But these 2 types of questions are basically dictation. So the robot, the Duolingo platform, will say a phrase. So I ate a sandwich for lunch today, and then it'll ask you to type that out as you hear it. So exactly as you hear it. And then you typically have 1 minute per question for that type of question, or 1 minute per that type of question. And then the read and complete is another fill in the blank section. It's very similar to the previous section, but longer. So you have the entire paragraph for these ones. So you've got 3 minutes to fill out a variety of words in this whole paragraph, or 2 or 3 sentence section. And these will be for the last section, where it's fill in the blank with random words. This one, you will have a lot of the simpler words like and or I, and just knowing where to kind of fit those words in, or which, for example, article is best suited to that situation is important for this.
Yeah, can I add one thing about listen and type? Yeah, just as you said, you have to type in exactly what you hear, and many people make mistakes with the verbs, like the auxiliary verbs. For example, if it says like "his finished his project," right? Typing in "he has finished" would be considered a mistake because although grammatically it is correct, right? It's not what you hear, basically. So be careful with especially those smaller things, because it's most of the time it's easy to follow the structure. It's easy to catch the main vocabulary, but those smaller things you tend to lose them when you listen to them, especially only if you listen to it only once. Is it only once, Mr. Cummins, or are you allowed to listen to it several times?
For listen and type, it gives you, I think, 3 times. So you can listen to it 3 times, if my memory serves. So you're not allowed to listen to it unlimited amount of times, but you also have a few different chances. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And use all 3. It does not care if you use 1 versus 3. So use all of your listens just to make sure. Yes, Margulan.
Does punctuation matter in listen and type of questions?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Good question. So, for example, if it's a question, if it is asking you to complete a question, make sure you have a question mark at the end of it. I'm sure it won't, give you too many like exclamation marks or things that are more ambiguous. But for a question, it should always have a question mark and have a period at the end of the sentence. And if there's going to be a comma in that sentence, it'll be a very obvious comma. So there'll be like a long, clear pause in the phrase.
And I believe that capital letters also matter if anything. What's the word? If the context allows that, right? But if you are using any words that have to start with a capital letter, you also have to use that, because that's also a part of your English grammar, right? It's not that you can choose to write the word Brazil with a small letter. No, it's like you have to be careful with that too. So capital letters also matter. I'm not sure if they make you use them a lot, but still, it's something that matters.
Yeah, but for example, at the beginning of every phrase, there should be a capital letter. If that's sort of part of the test, then make sure that your first letter of every phrase is capital or proper name. So my friend Mersaid is taking the test today. Make sure Mersaid is capitalized.
That's right.
The other thing, just relating to the listen and type, and just any of the listening tests that it gives you, English has a lot of frustrating qualities to it, or at times can be quite a frustrating language, because there are a lot of words that sound pretty much exactly the same but are spelt differently. So, for example, we are learning about the Duolingo test versus our friend is taking the Duolingo test. Those sound pretty much exactly the same, but they're spelled differently. So we are is A-R-E, our friend, or our friend, some depending on how you pronounce it, is O-U-R. So there are these things to be careful of. You need to know the context and the right word to use in the right context.
Yeah, or like sun and sun, right? Sun on the sky, or sun like your relative. Yeah, that it's really you should be careful with the context too.
Okay, so let's move on. So interactive reading. So this is basically reading a passage and then answering some questions about it. When I did the test, the first question it made me answer was basically another fill in the blank. So it was, this passage right here, or something similar to this, just with a few words that were taken out. And so again, you had to fill in the blank, but this one was at least multiple choice. So you had a variety of options to fill in the words with. So it was a slightly easier fill in the blank, but then that same passage is used for the rest of your questions. So one passage and you have a bunch of questions relating to that passage. And a total of, again, for my version of it, it was 8 minutes for this entire section. So you had 8 minutes to kind of do a bunch of different questions relating to this one passage. And those questions can vary. Again, it's adaptive, so these questions are not always the same. They might have one or two of these and not the others. But very common ones to have are, again, fill in the blank, content questions. So it'll ask you like understanding questions, and then summarizing the text. So that might be sort of, again, a multiple choice, but which of these 4 options best summarizes the text? So that's also, a bit simpler than SAT, but SAT style English tests do the same style of question where you have a section that you have to read and then pick the most accurate summarization of it. And then this example question that I have on screen is highlight the information. So it says, what time period is the article focused on? And you just click and drag and highlight the section that describes that, that answers the question to that, answers that question. So you don't have to type it out, you just click and drag and just find it in the text itself. The next section, so section 5, was rough, I think it was 6:45, so 6 minutes and 45 seconds, about a short or a series of short sentences. So the first one was just a question about, or sorry, a statement about, me and my friends are going to the mall to buy this. And then there were a bunch of questions about that. So where were you and your friends going? What were you buying? How long did it take to get you there? Depending on what kind of information is in the little phrase. The nice thing about these types of questions or these kinds of tests is that they're usually they're done in chronological order. So the answers are in sequence. So if the sentence is, me and my friends were going to the mall to buy ice cream, the questions will be, who were you with? My friends is the answer. Where were you going? The mall. What were you buying? Ice cream. So it will be, again, in a very clear order of how it was phrased or what was said in this in the sentence. And then for this section, I think it then had a few more audio, so listening activities relating to that. So it was follow-up questions. So a response, sort of multiple choice and response to someone talking to you. It kind of felt like playing a video game. I don't know if anyone here has played games like Skyrim or any kind of RPG game where you are talking to someone and then you have to pick the right answer. It kind of felt like that. So you have to, it'll be a conversation with the person selling you the ice cream and they'll say, what flavor do you want? And then your options are strawberry. My name is Bob. Have you heard of this type of train? And something else. So you have to pick the most appropriate answer for the context. And then in this section, so it's again 7 minutes for the whole section. The very last part was a writing activity where you were summarizing the whole conversation. And it was asking you to use the personal perspective. POV is point of view. So first person POV is you talking as if you were actually interacting with this person selling you ice cream. So you actually say, me and my friends, we're going to this and this and this. But you do have to type a little bit in this last part of the section. I think it was just 1 minute to summarize. Yeah, so here's a picture of the video game style one. So you listen to something, or you click on the audio and you listen to it, and then you pick the right answer. I think for this one, you could listen to it as many times as you want. This one did not have a restriction on how many times you wanted to listen to it. And you could also, before going into the summarization part, you could scroll up and reread things. So it gave you a bit of time to reflect and reread the conversation you just had. Okay. So section 6 for me, it might, again, switch it up or be a little bit different depending on who takes the test. But for me, section 6 was writing. And it was describe a photo. So the first section was describe a photo. Sorry, I didn't, the slide is not totally complete here. So it can be describe the photo, or it will be both describe a photo as well as respond to a prompt. So it's not only describe a photo. You've got 9 minutes to do both of these activities. But typically the writing activities or the writing tasks are kind of the same across the board. It's the same with IELTS style speaking and writing tests. Typically you are given something to describe, and then you describe it for a minute or two. In this case, it was 1 minute to write write your description of the photo, or type it out. And that was that first activity. And then the second activity was what you see on screen, which was 5 minutes to write respond to a prompt. And it was sort of like writing a mini essay. So the prompt question was, writing is a form of communication that can be used to connect people across time and physical distance. Do you think that writing will continue to be a major form of communication in the future? Provide specific responses to support your answer. So kind of like an essay question. So the first part, 5 minutes to respond to that. And then the last section of this was 3 minutes to answer a follow-up question. So just one other mini essay question about it, a smaller essay question. Any questions about that section, the writing section? Okay. Speaking, like so here, okay, good. The speaking section, one of the most important parts is just to have your microphone available. This is basically, the speaking section is pretty, there's 2 speaking sections. There's this one and then one at the very end. But the speaking section is very similar to the writing section. Again, you describe a photo, or you describe, or kind of orally, so kind of with your words, with your voice, describe how you feel about a prompt or an essay question. So 90 seconds, a minute and a half to sort of describe a picture or talk about a prompt. The prompt might be something like, talk about your favorite movie.
Я тебе отдам. Отдам тебе. Отдам.
Hello,
okay.
Anelia.
Anelia, something is happening.
Okay.
Okay.
I think we're good.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, this section, again, 6 minutes and a half. The first one was describe an image. The second one was just talk about a prompt, very similar to the writing section. And then the last section, which was most of this part of the essay or part of the exam, was sort of similar to the video game style respond to conversation prompts. So it was, again, kind of like as if you had someone talking to you. It was AI style conversation. So you would have one question and then you would have to speak the answer to it, and then another question and then you would have to speak the answer to it. And again, just in short, very short little sound bites. So no more than, a sentence or two relating to the question you're asked. Okay, we're getting close. I think this was the last section for me. So section 8 was the last section. And this was writing and speaking, very similar to the previous writing and speaking sections, except the whole thing was more of like a personal essay or personal narrative. So you talking about a question relating to your own life, as opposed to these hypothetical or sort of exam style questions. This was more, what is your favorite thing to do? What is your favorite pastime? Or describe a time that you had a difficult conversation. Those sorts of questions are what this section is looking for. So as opposed to formal writing, this is more of an informal writing style, and it's looking for how well you can speak on perspective. Because that is a skill to itself. You can be very good at essay and formal writing, descriptive writing, but then less fluent with more of the narrative writing. So this is looking for narrative writing skills and narrative speaking skills. So telling a story, in other words. For me, this section was 8 minutes long, 5 minutes for writing and 3 minutes for speaking. And they were very similar questions. So the writing was describe the last time you did something fun. What did you do and who were you with? So again, tell a story. And then the speaking one wasn't so much a story, but it was a perspective. So it was having you argue from your own perspective, your own opinion, why you agreed or disagreed with the topic. So this last section was much more of like a personal perspective, personal stories or personal opinion writing. So in total, that test, all of those sections combined, they're very kind of clearly timed, 8 minutes for one, 2 minutes for another, 3 minutes for another, but it all ends up being exactly an hour, or it's supposed to be exactly an hour-long test. It also gives you between sections 30 seconds to take a breath or relax or prepare slightly mentally for the next section. So it does give you a little bit of breathing room, but it's very regulated, timed breathing room. So you have to kind of keep that in mind, and just stick with it for the hour. Merci, do you have anything to add or anything that I missed?
Yep. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Mr. Cummins, for that very thorough presentation. If any of you guys listening to us, if you have any questions about the contents of the test or format of the test, or any other like precautions or rules, technical rules about the test, you can ask them right now. I just want to add and probably repeat and add for those who joined after me telling you about that. Again, December 31 is the deadline for the early admissions. By the way, that's the question that arises a lot. Do you have to do your Duolingo English test before you apply to apply for the early admission? No, right? So the idea behind the admission process or the applications or the early application process is that you have to first you have to fill the application form on the website. Second, you have to add there your motivational essay. you have to add there your digital portfolio, and you have to add there your transcripts for the past 2 years. But the thing is that you don't have to do the maths test and the Duolingo English test before the application. So you can apply if you have your transcripts ready, if you have your portfolio ready and your motivational letter ready. You can apply right now, today, tomorrow, before December 31. And then you have a lot of time. You have the whole January. You have even February. Like at the end of February, we'll be coming up with the list of candidates from the early admissions. So you have a lot of time. You have more than a month, definitely, to go through your Duolingo English test and math tests. So this is the sort of mini lecture or seminar from Mr. Cummins about the Duolingo English test. You have time to do it. It's not that we're forcing you to do it before December ends, but before December ends, we want you to apply for the early admissions. Why it matters? Because first of all, because the early admission costs you less than it will in March. Second, when you apply earlier, you have more chance to receive an academic grant. I'm sure that most of you heard about academic grants. And as you would imagine, logically, the earlier you get it, or rather, the earlier you apply, the more chance you have to get it, because there might not be any left by, let's say, April or May, right? So early admission matters. So if you are thinking about yourself as or considering yourself as a candidate for an academic grant, you should apply for the early admissions. So once again, you don't have to go through the exams yet to apply. This is an important message I wanted to convey. Does anyone have any questions for me or Mr. Cummins?
Okay.
It appears that everything is clear. So let me just make it. Let me just make myself sure that everyone gets everything. If you don't have any questions, if you liked today's presentation from Mr. Cummins and my silly comments around it, if you have found all the answers for your questions, please press the raise the hand button so that I can see that you all got it. Okay, I have several hands. 3. Okay, some of them. 4. Okay, I can see that. I can see that some. Good, great. It was really nice seeing you, Thomas. Once
Likewise.
again, Merry Christmas. And Merry Christmas to all of you guys, and Happy New Year, happy upcoming New Year. Everybody's listening to us. This is going to be an important year for all of you. You are applying to our school, and this is going to be an important year for all of us, because we are looking forward to welcoming you in our school. So let's live through this important times together. Apply to our school before December ends, and we'll see you next year, hopefully. Thank you very much.
Yeah, a pleasure talking to you guys. Bye. Take care.
Goodbye. Merry Christmas.
You too. Yeah.